Okay, this is gonna be a fun one. I imagine there's gonna be a lot of hurt feelings in this video, but you know what? That's okay. We like razzing each other. At the end of the day, there is no such thing as a bad cartridge, but we do love to argue about which one's better. This is the battle that people have been arguing for the last 100 years. 30-06 versus 270 Winchester. Now, I do use Gordon's reloading tool as an assistant to my reloading manuals. And so what I did was I used all the same parameters, excuse me, all the same parameters, like a 200 yard zero. I used bullet types that have as close of a G1 BC as possible. So I used a Nosler 190 grain AccuBond long range that has a G1 of 0.597 for the 30-06. And I used a Nosler 150 grain ABLR with a G1 of 0.591 for the 270. And so what I did was I looked up the operating pressures on each case, and I basically, using the same type of powder, this is Ram Shot Hunter. That's what I'm using because as I've been able to go back and forth, both drive bullets really well. But I basically pushed the data on the computer to max pressure. I'm not actually doing this in a rifle. This is just a fun one. Okay, so if you can pick your bullets and they're identical in their BCs or as close as possible, so you're having an apples to apples comparison, and you push them to their maximum pressures and you zeroed them the same, what kind of ballistics are you looking at? That's what this is. It's to be as close as possible. And while both will kill elk and kill deer, yeah, sorry, you 30-06 guys, you'll lose this one. So starting off, here's what we got. So you have the 30-06 Springfield, again with that Nosler 190 grain AccuBond long range, the G1 of 0.597. You get an average muzzle velocity of 2750. You might get a little more depending on your exact rifle, but that's the average. Energy, so the foot-pounds of 2519. So not a slouch, but not really that great. So at 100 yards, you have 2624 feet per second, 2293 foot-pounds. And then we're just going to kind of jump down to the negative. So at 300 yards, you have 2382, 1889 with 7 inches of drop. At 400 yards, you're looking at 2265 and 1709 for energy with minus 20.3 inches. 500 yards, you're at 2153 and 1543 foot-pounds with a drop of 40.4 inches. And just a quick side note, usually when we're talking about killing elk, sticking with the old school thinking, you want roughly 1,500 foot-pounds on your bottom end to be ethical on elk. So at 500 yards, this load is definitely ethical. But at 600, it's most certainly not, because you drop below it, well below it. 2,043 feet per second with 1,390 foot-pounds with almost 68 inches of drop. At 700 yards, 1,936 feet per second with 1,248 feet and 103 inches of drop. At 800 yards, 1,833 feet per second with 1119. And look at this, almost 150 inches of drop, 148.3. That's a lot. That's tanking pretty quick. And then here's where you really start seeing it. So out of the same length of barrel, same twist, and all the data being the same, muzzle velocity at the 270 with that 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range with the G1 of 0.591 is 3015 and an energy of 3,027 foot-pounds. So off the bat, I'm over 500 foot-pounds of energy different out the muzzle. That's not even remotely close. We'll jump down to 300 yards. You have 2,621 feet per second with 2288 foot-pounds with a negative of 5.7 inches of drop as compared to the -7. So at that range, we're still looking at about a difference of 400 foot-pounds. It's significant. Then we're going to go straight down to 500 yards, 2,377 feet per second with 1,881 foot-pounds of energy and a negative of 32.7. So there's an 8-inch difference between the drop from the 270 to the 30-06 at 500 yards. The 30-06 is topping out at its capabilities on elk at 500. And the 270 still has got plenty of momentum because it has over 300 foot-pounds still. At 700 yards, you have 2,140 feet per second, 1,533 foot-pounds of energy. So you're talking a difference of only 10 foot-pounds of energy, but you're talking about a distance of 200 yards. The 30-06 is doing that at 500. The 270 is doing that at 700. And you're only looking at 84.7 inches of drop. At 700 yards with the 30-06, you're looking at 103. That's not remotely close. And then here's where it really gets crazy. At 800 yards, where you really shouldn't be hunting it, with elk anymore, but you could do this for deer. And you could do it for deer too with the 30-06. 2,035 feet per second. So you're looking at over 200 feet per second, still faster, and over 260 foot-pounds of energy different. More. So the 270 is still maintaining more energy at that range. And it's only 121.5 inches of drop, as opposed to 148 inches of drop. That's a significant gap. Over 27 inches. So, if you're thinking that the 30-06 has the 270 beat as an elk gun, you better think again. Because the numbers don't lie. And you don't have to take my word for it. Go play with the Gordon's reloading tool yourself. Type in the parameters I did. You'll see. Because I'm also using the Federal Ballistics calculator to get all this data. So I type in the information on Gordon's reloading tool to kind of get the velocities at the beginning. And then I utilize that on the Federal Ballistics app, type that data in, and I utilize all the same parameters, same elevations, same increments, same scope height, and everything else. And so, I'm sorry, guys, the 270 just seems to be kicking the tar out of most people's expectations and thinking that the 30-06 is better. I can't really say that it is. The numbers are not supporting that the 30-06 is better. So, for me, that's one of the reasons why I like hunting with 270. The other thing is I also like the fact that while doing all of this, it's still having less recoil than the 30-06. That's even crazier. So, argue with it all you want in the comments. Have fun. Try to be respectful. But at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. If you like the 30-06, by all means defend it. Let's have some fun with this. We rag on each other, but at the end of the day, we all do it in good fun. It's not because we hate one another. The 30-06 has killed a ton of deer and a ton of elk. There's no denying that. So I'm not saying that The 30-06 is a bad cartridge by any stretch of the imagination. Don't think I'm trying to show any sort of disrespect. But the data doesn't lie. Please like, subscribe, and share. Start a fun argument in the comments, and let's keep this going. Let's make this a lot of fun for everyone. And even, show this to your kids if they're trying to get into hunting for the first time. This is the kind of data that they need to be looking at so they can learn themselves. All right, we'll talk to you again.